Hi, my name is Angelie Pereyra. I am a 2020 alumna from Girls Prep Lower East Side Middle School. I am currently a sophomore at the Dalton School. I'll be telling you about my Girls Prep and now Dalton journey. I started Girls Prep in 2011. I lived across the street from the school, and my mom had originally wanted to send me to the Catholic school, but she had seen the community and Miss Carboni shaking hands outside the door every day, and she was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And she sent an email with like 40 questions to Miss Carboni, and she answered them the next day. And she was like, okay, we'll try it out for a year. And apparently little Angelie loved it. And I can attest to that because I remember so much from kindergarten, which is surprising because I was like only 4 or 5. I started in the Joan Gans Cooney classroom. Every classroom at Girls Prep is named after an influential woman. I met Joan Gans Cooney in the 3rd grade, and we got to meet Elmo. Actually, there's a little video on YouTube of me singing the Girls Prep cheer with Elmo in my bright purple stockings and silver shoes. And that's when I found my little second family. I was so close to home, but that honestly wasn't even it. Everyone was so supportive from day one. Every teacher I had, from staff member, can still recognize me by name or face when I'm walking home from school now, or if I see them on the street on the way to the train station. And I think that's really representative of the lifelong commitment that Girls Prep has to their students, when I haven't gone to that school for maybe 4 or 5 years now, because I transferred campuses. And when I transferred to Girls Prep Lower East Side, I made that transition just out of just to find an easier commute, and because I wanted something new. And honestly, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. I was nervous about it because I had never been a new student since starting at kindergarten from pre-K, and I had nothing to be nervous about. Everyone was just as welcoming, and I was able to start anew and have that same sense of community that I did before, and create an even better, a new one with new girls and new teachers and new faces. And even now I can still see them and have that connection with them, which is really great. As for memorable moments and teachers, one of the best things that I can remember about Girls Prep is my 5th grade teacher, Miss Patel. She was an influence among influences, and I talk to her now. And I graduated from Girls Prep Bronx Elementary School in, I think, 2017, maybe, which is crazy. She was my 4th and 5th grade teacher, and she just gave me such a new perspective on what it meant to be a student, and have that love and passion for learning, and showing me how learning could interconnect with my identity and growing and so much more. And I just, having teachers who enlight that spark in you really made me the learner that I am today and the student I am. And she helped me commit myself into so many different things. I always loved learning, and I always enjoyed being a student, but she helped me find the personal connection to everything. And I think I've taken that with me until now. Same with uni meetings, and sister circle. Having that all girls school environment for the first 9 years of educational life, I think, was one of the most impactful things in my transition to Dalton, because it made me just so confident in who I was as a young woman, to be able to speak and have that connection with other girls and have no fear in ever participating, just being myself and being a student. And coming here, I feel so much more confident because I never had that felt the need of competition, or just being in that environment gave me such a strong sense in myself, and having that community. So I'm glad that we made the decision to be in an all-girls school for quite that amount of time.
Let's talk about graduating, because you graduated 2020, which means pandemic. So just talk to me briefly about what that experience was like. I think a friend of yours was.
That was my friend Jules. He's great.
Oh, I miss high school.
We actually were just talking about this, and he's like, I want a success story interview. I'm I don't know about that. I don't know about success story, Jules. But yeah, so 2020 pandemic, we went online in March. So I ended my 8th grade year virtually, which was a little sad because I'd always dreamed of having my like final moments at girls prep in person, but honestly didn't really make quite the difference. The community was still there online, which I found so interesting. I don't know how online school went for the new like class of eighth graders after I graduated, but we still had like our same dynamics online. I remember there was a teacher, my English teacher in eighth grade. We'd have her office hours Zoom session time was literally just me, and we'd talk about like poems and pieces of literature that like I'd always had questions about, or movies, and we literally spent 40 minutes just talking about that during the day. And sometimes another student would come in, and like I think that's what really made my beginning part of quarantine. It was just so nice to have like some sense of normalcy within like all the chaos of like the crazy year we had. So having that and like all of my teachers still be there for me and like able to finish off eighth grade strong and have that still like regular rigorous girls prep academic life, but also take that time for myself. I feel like I was most relaxed during quarantine in my last 3 months at girls prep because I still had that like academic involvement, but I was also getting the time to interact with my friends and my teachers as normal. I graduated in June. We had a virtual graduation and ceremony. I had a pre-recorded valedictorian speech that I probably recorded maybe 3 or 4 times. And then I was really sad that my background was backwards in the video, but I had a great time recording it. And it was so nice because after that, we had like a mini in-person meetup for like the first time since March. And we all got flowers and shirts in our yearbooks, and we got to see each other one last time, which was really nice. And it was like that connection that was there the whole time had never left. And I think that's so representative of who we are as a community, because it was just like coming back home to see family. So that was really nice.
Yeah, it was a tough year. It was a tough year. So let's talk about the Oliver Scholars Program. When exactly did that happen?
At the start of the 7th grade, Miss Latoya McCullough nominated me and a couple of other students for the Oliver Scholars Program. Oliver Scholars is a program that seeks out to get the top 60 Black and Latinx students in New York City into independent schools across the United States. The program is 14 months and it gives you all the utensils you could possibly imagine for this complex process that some people could only dream of doing. And I think their biggest thing about Oliver that makes it so special is that they really want to stress the fact that it is possible for kids like us to get into these schools. And Girls Prep has that message as well. But I find that since they work so closely with other schools like Girls Prep and try to reach out to them and have that connection so they can find these students is so impactful. And when I started and got in, I felt so, it was definitely like a bit of a moment where I was like, oh my God, I wasn't ready for this. Like I had no idea. But then I found I finally made my match with it. I took on the challenge. I remember the first week of Oliver, I cried on the train and I was like, oh my God, this is not for me. I'm not ready. But I knew I had my Girls Prep family cheering me on. They were like, no, this is good. And I was like, no, I know I'm going to disappoint myself if I quit. I need to do this. I knew this was going to be something that was going to change my life, and it did. So I'm very happy that I stuck with it. I was nominated for Oliver Scholars in the 7th grade, and I got in May 17th, 2019. I remember the day because it was also my confirmation, and I was freaking out while I was there, and I had found out, and I immediately texted Miss McCullough, and I'm like, oh my God, I got in. And the thing for me with Oliver was I was so set on getting in because I was like, I'm not throwing away my shot at a I remember Miss McCullough was always making fun of my Hamilton references back then when I was talking about it. But she was like, I want to take this chance. Private school was never something that I was considered possible for me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that I thought we could make happen. But I knew that this was a program and it was an opportunity that I was possible. And I was like, all right, what's the harm in trying? And I did, and I got in, and I started my 14-month journey for summer immersion program 1 and 2 and Saturday Academy in June or July of that summer. And then I did that. And then we had Saturday test prep all the way up until December. We had a break, and then we started up again, and we did it online. While Girls Prep was online, Oliver was also online. So I had that extra help and like also academic rigor from there, because Oliver is very demanding as a program as well, as on top of my girls prep schedule. And then I had it the following summer, and I graduated in 2020 from there.
I want to hear about sort of what that initial application process was like, and what the transition was going from 8th grade to 9th grade, and how all that felt. Because it was also in the middle of the pandemic, right?
Partially. Oliver Scholars really took care of a lot of my high school application dilemma, but Girls Prep did a lot in the regards to specialize in public high schools. I applied to 36 schools, which was a very daunting task and one of the most stressful times in my life. But I had the support there, so I was really, really happy I did, because I don't know how I would have done. Every time I think about that year, I'm like, oh my God, how did you do that? Like, that's crazy. For Dalton, more so specifically, I actually wouldn't know about Dalton without Girls Prep. And even though Oliver was made for like independent schools, I didn't find it through there. Miss McCullough had set up a day, like, it was September 4th, we had gotten back, and she was like, hey, I think you may be interested in this school. I have this woman coming to talk about the Dalton school. And I was like, oh, okay, I feel like I've heard that name before. And I was like, something from Oliver. And Miss Calixto, who is one of my like closest relationship bonds that I have in this building, she's my favorite person here, was sitting down, and I gave my student ambassador spiel, like introduced myself and like trying to network. And she was like, and I told her I was from Oliver Scholars, and she got so excited. And she was like, oh my God, you're an Oliver Scholar. Like, do you know this? And do you know this person? I was like, yeah, I do. And we had like that bond. And I sat there and I was like, okay, I want to give this school a chance. This woman was really nice. And I like fell in love with it. I sat there and a part of my soul was awoken. I was like, this is everything that a school for Angelie would need. I felt like the whole time she was talking to me. I have my Girls Prep planner. I found it the other day, and I was taking my notes on Dalton School, like stuff that we needed to learn, because everyone was taking notes. And I wrote down in the margins, Hogwarts of New York City high schools. And it just seemed like back then it seemed like a far-fetched dream. And I brought it up to my Oliver Scholar counselor, and they were even hesitant because they're like, it's really competitive, but she called for you. Like, you should apply. And I fought for my application there, because originally there was this is everything with applications. It's a difficult process, but I took my chance. I was like, you know what's the worst that can happen? And I applied. I had my interview in November, and it went great. It was 2 hours long. We were talking about everything under the sun. And I remember telling her it was all about risk for me, because the high school application process, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. As much as I loved Dalton and I really wanted to get in, I wanted a school that wanted me as a student, and not because of a number factor. Because with independent schools, we have to be honest here, it is difficult for a girl like me to get in. And Dalton is really good about DEI work, but objectively that is the case and has been historically. And I remember saying at my interview, and I remember thinking, I thought it was such a risky thing to say, but I was like, look, I don't want to get here through affirmative action. I don't want to be a statistic. I want to be here because I'm going to add something to your community. And that really made all the difference. And I kept fighting for my spot. I did everything I needed to do. I kind of like put it in fate's hand. I tried to manifest it as best as I could. I was like, this is something I wanted so bad for so long. And I knew that I had been working for it, and I had a whole bunch of people who wanted it for me, and I wanted it so bad. And I was just playing the waiting game until February 13th. And I was waiting anxiously all day, and I went with Miss McCullough to the 5th floor and we were just sitting in the hallway with my mom reloading the page, and I opened the letter and I got in, and we were just all screaming. The whole floor was like screaming and crying for my accomplishment here. And I was like so stunned, but like there was people coming out of classrooms, girls I had never met, who like knew me but were congratulating me, who were like, wow, this is possible, and I didn't know it was. And I think it was just so amazing, not only just for me because I completed a goal that I had wanted for so long, but to see like the inspiration on people's like young kids and my peers' faces. So like, wow, this seemed impossible. Like I was so worried about the high school application process, but you just did it. And I was like, I know, I couldn't believe it. So I'm like, and now I'm at Dalton, and even though it was like back then it was like, oh, June, this is gonna only be perfect. And I got in and I was like, now I'm here. Like, you got to the top of the mountain. What do you do? And I honestly, they have been so accepting. I feel like Dalton was like the perfect transition from girls prep. You know, they have that same sense of community and wanting to integrate you as best they can. They know that you're going to add value because you are you. And I feel like that's so special. And we have similar like things. We have house, which is like our homerooms at girls prep. And we have like we have assembly, which is like our uni meetings. And it's very similar in that sense of community. And I've gotten so many opportunities just from being here for like a year and a half. So it's like really great to see that it all worked out.
How did you starting to get involved in theater? Like, how did that whole thing happen?
At girls prep, theater is mandatory. And I had actually in middle school, I wrote 3 plays that were performed, which were really nice. They were like short 5-minute things. And I performed my first monologue in 8th grade or 7th grade before we did theater for the last time. And then I did the second one in the beginning of 8th grade in my literally the week before quarantine. We had girls prep was always really big about like trying to get girls to do different things and like arts and they started ballet recently, I heard, which was really cool. I got to sit in on that in 7th grade at the day that I saw like my monologue performed on a video, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that they did this now, because I did ballet outside of girls prep when I was younger. But in elementary, there was like little musicals, and I was Mary Poppins in kindergarten. And then we did Swamped and like Pigs Will Fly. So I always had an interest for theater, but I never really thought to pursue it. I love musicals. I'd been going for like ever. Whenever my mom could take me to one, I was just so enamored by all of it. But I was kind of like put it on the back burner because I was a student first. I was like my grades, my everything. That was just something I wasn't concerned about. And here I had gotten here. I had a really great first year at Dalton. It was really chill. I got to try a whole bunch of new things. I've taken some of the coolest classes I can like name to you right now. But I was like, all right, you know what? All of my friends are telling me like this is going to be so fun. I should do it. And I was really nervous about auditioning because singing is not really my thing. Acting I had always enjoyed. And it wasn't out of my comfort zone, but like dancing and singing definitely were. But I gave it a shot. I got into we did Pippins, and I was one of the players. And for my first show, it went so well. It was a huge commitment, and honestly, I was like so taken aback about how much of myself I was giving to this. It was like 3 hours a day every day for 6 weeks after school, and like I had to see the impact that would have on my work schedule, and like adjust to that new change of and not being a student first and studying all the time, and now having shorter amount of time and learning how to manage my time better and finding those resources in school and taking advantage of all the opportunities Dalton has to offer in that regard. And honestly, as the weeks led up to the show, I was just like, so like getting ready, and I didn't know how, and after the show finished, I was like, wow, I didn't know how much I missed it. Like after it's over, I'm like, I'm not in rehearsals anymore. I'm not doing the show. I'm not like getting mic checked now or having to run to change to my costume or all the fun stuff that comes with it. We've just started in summers, but since I wanted to take a break post Pippin, I'm doing tech and costumes for this show. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to work out. But as for extracurriculars, that's like the biggest one that I like finally involved myself in right now. I do a couple other stuff too. That was the main new thing.
You've been bit by the theater bug.
I've been bit by that is what my director said. That is what my director said. I emailed him like a whole bunch of questions in the beginning, and I was like, I'm just making sure, like, can I have any prerequisites? Like, you've caught the bug, just audition. And I was like, okay, I will.
Yeah.
Other than theater right now, I'm head or like co-head at the moment because the seniors are like not there, because they're having their own application struggles right now, which I totally sympathize with. So I'm co-head of Dalton's Latinx affinity group called OLA, which is an acronym for something, but I never was filled in on what that acronym was. So I'm glad that they have it. But OLA means high in Spanish. And we also have Shades, which is our POC like affinity group here at Dalton. I'm pretty involved with that. I'm like a really big assistant on like Dalton panels and admission stuff. So like doing what I'm doing for you at Girls Prep, I now do with Dalton, which has been really nice. I did a little bit of debate. I haven't been doing it too much because I'm like still coming off of theater, but I did Harley for a second there. I'm a House representative. Keep myself busy. Dalton is like the endless platter of things to choose. Our course handbook is 86 pages long, and our club list goes well over 150. So there's still a lot to choose from, and our classes are so entertaining themselves. So you just gotta like limit yourself to what buffet menu you want to choose, and like keep yourself busy, but not too busy so you're stressed. So now it's just been like experimenting a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and choosing what path I want to take for the rest of my adult career, because there's plenty of time.
Tell me about what your first year was like, what you're up to now, what your favorite classes have been. Do you have any standout teachers and experiences?
Yeah. Sure. My first year at Dalton was online for the first, I want to say, 5 months. Dalton was one of the only independent schools that had kept the virtual like commitment for the beginning. I think we started like going in 1 day a week. And in the day that I was going 1 day a week was on Tuesdays, and there was only sophomores in the building. So I was just like not really like knowing my grade too much in person yet, but like I still had that connection with everyone that was there. Like the thing about Dalton that was so like crazy to me, that all these kids really, really want to know you. Like I had gotten in February, and by March, like I didn't even know these kids knew my name, but like half the class of 2024 was like follow requesting me on Instagram and like wanted to know me. And like they were all like, just like everyone gets really nervous about having new kids integrate into schools. But like when people have known each other since kindergarten, all they want to do is get to know you. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier, I do Dalton Totos as well, which is like a group of all the new kids. At any point at Dalton, whether it be 6th grade that you came in new or 9th grade, we like all come together and we help out new kids who are in prospective applicant families. Which is, as for classes last year, one of the most interesting things I tried to try was painting. I did painting 1, and stage combat and physical comedy, which is basically gym class for theater kids. Dalton, like I said earlier, our course load, like our course choosing load is like crazy long. There's so many different things you can take. So it like over time is overwhelming, and it's the first time to never like I didn't like PE like at all. so to have the option to just not take PE and take something else that I was interested in as a PE credit was like crazy cool. So I got to do like fencing and like stuff on over Zoom and like little skits and stuff, and it was really, really fun. Painting was one of the best experiences that I had like online. They gave us this huge kit at the beginning of the year, and like I still use it now. I take painting 2 this year with the teacher who I had last year, Miss Bowen, who's one of the sweetest women I have ever met. She's just like so supportive and has some of the most interesting story. And I think that's stories, and like I think that's what is like Dalton teachers have been here for so long that they have such experience about like the most craziest things to talk about. And like she'd tell me all of her like world-renowned painting stuff, and I'm like, wow, like this is like, you're such a cool person. And I got to try, like I had never done painting other than like maybe in 2nd grade art class with Miss Hopkins, and love Miss Hopkins, but I had never done anything else outside of that. So I was like, okay, sure, like, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I did a lot of fun pieces. This year I'm continuing that. We have a different teacher because Miss Bowen's currently out, but Alana, who is the costume designer for Pippin, is doing painting right now. And it's just so cool to like start new pastels and try new things and really expand my skills as an artist. But as for core classes, I have had the coolest English class ever. I could talk about this forever. I have introduction to poetry, and I did not like poetry before coming to Dalton. And it's part of our English classes are like, there is no just English, just science, just math. Like they have like very specific things you could choose from. And intro to poetry and / intro to drama, which changes in semester 2 when we come back for break, is mandatory, but it's just so cool. Like we have this book of poems and we just talk about them Socratic seminar style. Most of our classes also, which is different from girls prep, are like on round tables. So we kind of just like have discussions all the time. It's just like every time I think about like, even for math, we're just having round table discussions for geometry proofs. So it's really, really nice. Girls prep his biggest thing from day 1 was college completion, and that's has been my goal since day 1 with them. They say that the end of our 2 years, and we lift you up and you'll hold our hand or something like that. And it's very sweet. We sing it at every unity meeting, and in middle school you get the little like beat twist with nice little stomps and stuff. But college has been like, I mean, college was never a question for me because of the environment. I grew up with girls prep, but like going, now that I have the opportunity to make it into a highly competitive elite school, I think that's what I was seeing for myself for college. But even then, I just want an opportunity to continue this magical path of learning I put myself on. It didn't even matter to me about a name or adding to a fun little degree on my wall or a little something to my collection, just something to continue learning this way. So I'm really excited for that next phase in my life. At girls prep, there was never really like something. I was always, my dream in first grade was I want to be the first female president of the United States. Now it's changed a lot. I have a lot of different ideas of what I want to be doing. Right now, here, I took a journalism class last year and I was like, wow, I really like this. And I saw myself really appreciating literature in that way and just finding new aspects of my identity in what my future career path would be. I never thought about it too critically. I always thought, I was like, oh, I love the humanities and I love law and I love this and maybe I'll go to law school, maybe I'll do this. But I'm just so excited to see where this path takes me because I feel like right now I have a little bit of time and I'm enjoying that like leeway and finding what I want next. Girls prep really made it though, like made it what it is for me. I know it sounds like I'm trying to sell our school all the time because it's like, you know, I'm like the biggest, like, send your kid here. Like, I could not imagine being who I am at all without that 9-year foundation. I wouldn't be at Dalton, I wouldn't be at Oliver, and I wouldn't be me without that community, without my family, without how they worked with my own family through that whole year, through those whole 9 years and still do. You know, like that connection was just like gave me such an eye-opening perspective on like how to be just a good person, like how to be not just a good student, a good person, a good leader. Like it gave me such a wonderful outlook at life, and I'm so grateful for it. And it's like, I know like when you are trying to pick a school for your kid, you just want something that'll make them the people of tomorrow. And I think that's what Girls Prep does best. You know, they foster that love for learning so young. They give them a plethora of different things to try. There's like a whole bunch of little like nuances in an experience for elementary and middle school that not many people get. And I'm so glad that Girls Prep is giving that opportunity to so many students in communities that need it. And I'm just like so grateful for my experience, and I'm glad that I got to share that with you today because it's like really, really something that made a difference in my life.
The Public Prep Podcast is produced in partnership with True Story FM. Engineering by Pete Wright. Music this week is by Rose Colored Glasses and Beneath the Mountain. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, we hope you'll consider doing just that for our show. But the best way that you can support all of the inspiring voices of our public prep scholars is simply to share the show with a friend or colleague. Thank you for listening.